I'm very happy as a stay-at-home mom too, but I'm also happy with that balance of like, I enjoy working out and getting time by myself.
It was challenging in the beginning because I saw the things that you were spending money on, and then it was also this thing where like I would come home and I would see you like sleeping on the couch, and I was like, what the fuck? I just worked all day, right?
I remember like washing bottles, picking up the house, trying to tidy up like everything at night. It would be like 9 p.m. after I got Luca down, and you'd be like laying on the couch. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like I just spent the whole day with the kids and haven't had a single second to myself. Like, you think you can pitch in?
That's fair. Yeah. Welcome back to the Late Night Date Night podcast. We have a little episode, Mr. Enzo Nazzaro, because he didn't want to cooperate today and take a nap. So he's going to be here today on our show today, and he is super excited about this. And that's kind of the whole point of this one. It's like, you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And it was an amazing conversation that we had right before our first son, Luca, was born, right? For you to walk away from working at Verizon, a job that you really didn't like that much, but you're making $140,000 a year. Yet the one thing that you told me you wanted to be was a stay-at-home mom. What was that like, walking away from like this work piece for you and going full into being a mom all the time?
I was so excited. I remember like once we made it official, I called my manager and told her I wasn't coming back. I remember just like being so excited. I wanted to like celebrate because I had always thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so to like make that dream a reality, I was just so excited to be able to spend all my days with Luca, and then as we continue to grow our family. So
I remember it was great because we had your health care for when Luca was born, which was fantastic. And then there was this moment when we got home from the hospital where I was like, okay, cool. Like, now we're going to be doing this thing. Like, your income's going to run out in 90 days or whatever it was, your maternity leave. But then it was going to all be on me, right? And so I was so stoked because we were in a beautiful spot for you to be able to do this, which was great because I also wanted the boys to be raised by by us. I didn't want it to be in, daycare. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we just had this vision of what we wanted. And so we made the decision to do that. But there's also, pass the baton. There's also this piece where I think there's a lot of stuff that was going on in the beginning that was hard for you. What was that like?
yeah. Well, it was weird because I went from being totally independent, like we basically had our own income streams that we could both survive off of. There were some bills that we shared, and so once we went down to one income, like we talked about like combining finances, how was that going to work? Who was going to do what? Like roles and responsibilities was really big. And then just like the day-to-day too. Who's going to take care of what? How long are you going to work? When you'll have your time, when I'll have my time.
But in the beginning, we didn't even get there. Like, that's so far down the road. In the beginning, like, I remember you being excited, but you also struggling tremendously with us combining finances and you spending what you called my money.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, going from, hey, I have this money coming in that I work for, to going to a spot where now it was our income, but it didn't feel like your money?
Yeah, it was really hard because I was the one spending the money pretty much, doing like groceries and Target, Costco runs, buying stuff for Luca at the time because, every like 3 months he needs new clothes and things like that. And so I saw all of the expenses and all of the money that we were spending, but yet I was at home not having an income, not seeing like anything like the money that was coming in. And so that was really uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, it was hard because like I felt like sometimes I had to ask for permission to spend money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. as an adult that had a very well established salary of my own where I could spend money freely on facials or clothes or whatever I wanted to at the time, all of a sudden I went to like not really having this independence or security of my own to be able to make those decisions by myself.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to ask you, and that was really uncomfortable.
I'm sure. And at the same time, like I was going through this piece where it was like, okay, now we're combining finances, and I didn't know your spending habits. I didn't give a shit about what you spent, the money that you were making at Verizon on. Mm-hmm. But now that there's two things happening. One, it was one account, right?
Yeah.
And two, there was only one income. Mm-hmm. And so my scarcity definitely came into play. I didn't even realize how much scarcity I had. And it was this thing where I was like, well, this is our money. And I kept saying that, but I don't know that I truly believed it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like I was like I knew that I wanted you to be able to go and do whatever you wanted, but I also knew that it was like a weird time for both of us, And I think that's when the initial conversation about like, yes, this is our income, but the bigger conversation that came up, it was like, well, what is the value that each of us is bringing to the table, right? From a value perspective, not just money, but I was the one producing and making money, right? And from a value perspective, you were the one keeping the house together, right? What was that like transitioning from just conversations about money for me to, for us to be able to establish like, well, what is the value that we're bringing so that you felt like it was our money and not just my money?
I think it took a lot longer than I ever expected. I think it took like a solid 2, maybe even like 2-3.5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
For me to get comfortable with like, this is our money. We operate as a team. I keep the family together. You keep the family like funded.
That's fair. And there's other stuff too, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff. I don't know. I felt like for me to like switch into that mindset, we had to fully operate as a team.
Yeah.
And I feel like it took us a very long time for us to do that. So it was very difficult. How was it for you?
It was challenging in the beginning because I saw the things that you were spending money on, and then it was also this thing where like, I would come home and I would see you like sleeping on the couch, and I was like, what the fuck? I just worked all day, right? And it wasn't like I was mad at you. I was just sitting there being like, okay, this is a complete just like overhaul of what we've known in our relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Because, and I think you said a lot of times I feel like my work would go unseen. And it's because, well, the things that you're doing, like, it's easy to take for granted, right? It's easy to take for granted that there's groceries. It's easy to take for granted that there's toiletries. It's easy to take for granted that the house is kept together. It's easy to take for granted that our little boys have their mom all day. Like, it was just easy to take for granted. And so it was me recognizing and starting to appreciate the things that before I took for granted and went unnoticed.
Yeah.
And it took me some time. But I think what I really started to see it come together was when I realized like when we were working as a team, we were unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment that I realized, okay, like all of this is ours.
Yeah.
Which was great because now I never felt like I had to check the bank accounts or I had to like check your spending. And I think that was the time I saw you just be like, yo, I'm going to free flow and just spend money on things I don't want to spend money on, right? But I think we also set up some guidelines too. Like there was a dollar threshold. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, if it's above this, we should have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
There's also this piece too that we had to like outline, and that was roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
That
was a big one.
That was a big one. Yeah. I think we took on very traditional gender norms at the first. Like as I initially became like a stay-at-home mom and was home with Luca. And I think that is definitely molded together a little bit more as of the last like year or so. Because in the beginning it was like, okay, I'm in charge of the household and the kids. And I remember like not sharing our shit, but I remember like washing bottles, picking up the house, trying to tidy up like everything at night. It would be like 9 p.m. after I got Luca down, and you'd be like laying on the couch too, like watching TV, and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like I just spent the whole day with the kids and haven't had a single second to myself. Like, you think you can pitch in?
That's fair. Yeah. And when I started to realize that, like, I was putting my expectations on what I wanted the house to be like and life to be like onto you, but I wasn't also stepping up because I was exhausted, right? Like, it was the first time that there was a stress and pressure that came with making the money. And when I got home, I felt like, okay, well, this is what you're supposed to do and this is what I'm supposed to do. But then I started to realize, like, there's nothing wrong with traditional roles, right? But there's what we had to adapt to, and I think what has been critical for us is traditional roles in a modern world.
Yes.
Right? So traditional roles in the sense that, like, yeah, you're going to take care of a lot of stuff at home, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also things that I'm going to do, right? Like, I'm still going to go grocery shopping. I'm still going to cook dinners at times when I can. I'm still going to help clean up. Mm-hmm. Like, and it was like this team effort. And so, yeah, we have traditional roles, but we've put like this modern twist on it, which has been really impactful and helpful for us.
Agreed. Yeah. Like, having you and just being able to share the load of things, especially with the boys, you know, and like not like being able to help calm a tantrum or keep lists of snacks we need or anything like that, or like a packing list, like you've helped pack the clothes. It's not like all on me now.
Well, I think it's a proactive approach, right? I started to think of it like, what if this was a business? Like, would I just sit back and like let you run the show? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I wouldn't. I would take a proactive approach to see, like, okay, where can I help?
Right.
And that's when it really came down to, like, well, what are the things that she doesn't like to do that I don't mind doing? I don't mind grocery shopping. Mm-hmm. I don't mind cooking. And then I saw, like, okay, when we go on vacation, especially when we went to Kauai, I saw us get to Kauai and you were still stressed. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wonder why. And then I realized, okay, well, you had to pack all the clothes for yourself and for Luca. And it was just like really stressful for you. I was like, okay, well, what if
pregnant.
And you were pregnant? Mm-hmm. Like, that shouldn't just fall on you. And so it's really just been able to see, like, where do we both thrive and what are the things that we fucking hate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just pitch in. Like, just because I am a stay-at-home mom doesn't mean, and I am perceived to have all this time, like, doesn't mean that I have to carry all the weight of what kids bring, you know? And so I feel like finding that balance between, like, your work and helping out with the household has just made everything so much better with us.
There's also been a conversation recently that we've had about just like value, right? The value that I bring to the marriage and to the family, the value that you bring to the business. What have you seen in that piece as far as, like, I don't know, just making that connection to how you support the growth of what we're building? It's not just a me thing anymore. It's like what we're building.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think having that vision of what we want our life to look like has made some of, like, the smaller stuff kind of fall by the wayside because we're focused on, like, that larger picture. And so I would feel guilty in the past, I feel like, if you were washing bottles or doing the grocery shopping and prepping for that stuff, because I felt like it was solely my like responsibility, and I had to, like, flip my own beliefs a little bit in order to just, like, accept that you were helping because you wanted to help, and that was a great thing, and that's what it means to us to be, like, a true team.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it as far as, like, values, it came down a lot to, like, my own beliefs and what I believed a stay-at-home mom should be, and just focusing on what we want and how we're going to run our family.
Yeah.
And not really caring what society thinks or says should be done by both of our roles.
We have a lot of friends who judge traditional roles because they're weird fucking feminists, honestly. You know it's fucking true. And they believe that, like, women empowerment and all this type of stuff, which I also agree with. Like, women should feel empowered to do what they want.
Yes.
Do you feel disempowered by doing this?
by being a stay-at-home mom?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But it took us a long way to get to where we're at now.
100%.
For me to feel more empowered
Yeah.
and comfortable in this role versus like the very traditional stay-at-home mom life where nothing but the kids.
And that might work for some people.
Sure,
But
it might work.
there's also reality where traditional values in a modern world can exist. Mm-hmm. Right?
Totally. They probably worked for a lot of people.
They work for a fuck ton of people. Mm-hmm. Right? Like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about this is like you get to create whatever dynamic that you want. You know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's still also these struggles that we faced that we've had to work through, which we've talked about. But there's also this thing of just like, sometimes I feel like, do you get wrapped up in what those girls think about like what we do?
Sometimes. I care way too much about what people think sometimes. And I'm really just trying to focus on how certain things make me feel and doing things that are just more aligned with what I want, instead of creating that like resistance within myself. And so much easier said than done to not care what people think, but I'm very happy as a stay-at-home mom too, but I'm also happy with that balance of like I enjoy working out and getting time by myself.
And those are things that you voiced that what you wanted. You're like, hey, I want to be a stay-at-home mom and I want these things. Oh, Dad's safe. I want to have, there you go. I want to have time to work out.
Yeah.
I want time to myself. I want time to go get facials and get my hair done. I want these other things as well.
Right.
And to be able to voice what you want from a place of like, not even what I want, I'm going to have this.
Yeah.
Right? What was that like for you to like express that and to share that?
I think it took us a long time to get to. It's okay. Are we losing you? I think it took us a long time to get to where we're at. Because I remember in the beginning, like having conversations with you here in the living room, like just begging for an hour to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle to find that time to be able to get to myself, to work on the things that make me like happy and whole.
Yeah.
And so to be able to like voice those things and not have them like heard in the beginning was really hard. But then to where we're at now, to voice them and you continually just show up and be like, yeah, let's figure out a way to do that because I want you to be happy as well, you know?
Yeah.
I think it just makes me feel loved and like seen and like I matter too, you know. So did that stress you out at all?
I think just hearing you talk about that brings up some things in me. I didn't realize how much scarcity I was in and how that was driving the decisions. Like I had created such an identity in production, meaning if I wasn't making money, I didn't feel like I was providing for the family, which was hard for me. And so when you would ask for this time, I was like, well, that's going to take a time away from me growing the business. And if it's taking time from me growing away from the business, how am I going to make money and provide for the family? Mm-hmm. And so it was this constant, like my state was do more. And I felt like you were taking away from my ability to do more. And yet at the same time, those constraints allowed me to realize like I didn't have to do more. I had to actually be more efficient and effective with what I was doing because a lot of the stuff that I was doing was just bullshit work. And so when you were saying those things at first, there was a lot of resistance where I was like, I don't get it. And what I realized is like, I was only looking at it from one perspective. And so the moment that we truly got on the same team, I was like, listen, I want you to be in this marriage because you're happy, not because you feel like a prisoner, right? Because I'm going to venture to say that if you had been making money and I had been treating you the way I was treating you, you probably would have made some different decisions.
I think we both kind of got to that point in our relationship over the last like 2.5 years if we were both to admit it.
If you had been making $140,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. Would you have tolerated what was going on?
No.
Did you feel like a prisoner because you weren't making any money?
Yeah, I felt like a prisoner because I didn't know if we were to separate, like what I would do.
Yeah.
But I did try and map it out in my head.
Yeah. And I think that's,
honestly.
and I'm sure you did. And I think I realized that. And that came to the understanding that I was like, listen, if she is in the relationship because she has no other option, that's not a partner, that's a prisoner.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to feel like that. And so, listen, it's like hard to talk about because I still think there's some guilt and shame around it because of the way that I treated you. And I'm not trying to justify it. I think I was blind to it because I was so scared. Because the pressure of trying to make money for the home had me thinking like a nut job.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of pressure that you take on once I quit my job. You know, that's $140,000 that you have to make up. And to a lot of people, that's a lot of money.
I mean, it is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now we've got like a kid in the mix. Now we have 2 to think about. So I know it's hard.
Yeah. What was it
It's
like
a lot
though?
of pressure.
I know we got a baby that needs a diaper change. This is really interesting to do a podcast and have a toddler in it. Like it's really hard to hold a conversation, make space for everything.
Yeah.
But you're crushing it.
You are too.
What was the moment that changed and you finally it like pivoted everything to where you felt like we were going together on the same path?
I would say kind of recently when we did like our vision board mapping, I felt like we were definitely on the same page. But then again, back in like August of last year, so 2024, I felt like we finally just showed up and we were like, yep, we're gonna let go of the past. We're gonna move forward. I feel like that was a pivotal moment for us in the past. And then I guess even further than that, when you took that month off of work after Enzo was born, that was like huge for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that was just after having Luca and having like so much challenges around like you going back to work, a couple of days after he was born or something like that. That was really, really hard. I had postpartum depression and like, I don't know, just having that experience, but then having Enzo be born and having like a completely different experience, being able to us to like all bond together as a family of 4 was just was like magical.
I agree.
And so
I had a coach tell me that the first 6 months after your child is born is going to dictate the next 10 years of your marriage. And I knew that I had made a mistake after Luca was born, going back to work 48 hours after we got back from the hospital. And I did the best I could with the knowledge that I had. Yet when Enzo was born, I made a promise to myself and a promise to you that I was going to do it differently this time because I wanted to create a family and an environment where we were a team and we were working together.
right.
And while that was hard for me to take a month off, I think that was the moment that pivoted everything in the sense that I was like, hey, listen, I'm here to show up. And no matter what I said wasn't going to matter because you had asked me to take 8 weeks off and I said, I'll do 4. And you said, the only reason I asked for 8 is because I want 10 days. And so I knew that I wanted to prove to you that I was, my actions matched my words. And so I think March of 2024 was a pivotal moment, especially when you were born. And then I got to spend time at home with you guys. And I think that really changed everything.
Yeah, I do too.
But the one thing I want to encourage all of you guys, and I think this is where we'll wrap it, is like, you're going to have to voice what you want. And fights with your wife aren't a bad thing. Fights with your husband aren't a bad thing. As long as it's what you guys are fighting for what you want. Because on the other side of every collision is an opportunity for a connection, for you to understand her and for her to understand you. And that connection allows you then to create this vision of what you guys actually want in the marriage. And then from that creation, it's like you guys get to work together to build it. So
Yeah.
I
I love you too.
more than anything.
Yeah, more than anything.
Yeah, I truly feel like I have a teammate.
Me too.
Yeah. Give me a kiss. This just went from PG to PG-13. Till next time, take care. Peace.